You know the vibes is Litty Willie, and today, another episode of Real Talk. I want to thank everybody that has been supporting, everybody that has been following, everybody that has been subscribing. Before I start off, if you're not subscribed yet, just hit the subscribe button. It is very simple. I seen analytics, and it is showing that we're getting more views, but it's also showing that you're not subscribed. So it's very simple. Create a Google account, create any kind of account, and just subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you to everybody that has been supporting the Real Talk movement. Thank you to everybody that gave me good, positive feedback on my last Real Talk episode, which was with my sister. We had a very deep emotional conversation, but I had a lot of people that gave me positive feedback. I had a couple people that mentioned to me and told me that, your family's not going to be happy about this. But I just want to bring that to light and say that if a family member can understand somebody's story, especially a story as treacherous as the story my sister went through, explained, and talked about, then I don't care how they feel. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and watch my last episode, episode 3 of Real Talk, where we're talking about molestation and all the other things with family members and things like that. Jumping straight into it, today on Real Talk episode 4, we are going to get into generational curses. Now, with generational curses, we want to talk about how we're going to identify them, admitting them, and changing them. So, in my opinion, identifying generational curses is by noticing what multiple people in your family has done wrong from generations, meaning your parents, your grandparents, so on, so on. Coming from the urban environment and coming from the Caribbean, we think that just working, paying bills, and graduating high school or college is a goal. But it's sad because I see a lot of people from my circle, my generation, my urban environment, my environment in general, that don't have dreams and aspirations. I feel like I've never seen my father mention a dream. And although I don't talk to my father, I've never heard him say, I wanted to do this when I grew up. Instead, it was always drilled, go to work, pay your bills, raise your kids, and that's it. I don't see our lives being just if you want to call it, a matrix simulation where we wake up, pay our bills, go home, go to sleep, and do the same thing over and over again. That's one generational curse, in my opinion. Admitting to them is obviously speaking on them. Your parents, especially in the Caribbean and in the urban environment, your parents are not going to be okay with you not wanting to be a doctor, not being a lawyer, not being something where it's gonna be beneficial to you later on. So, you have to admit and say, yeah, my generation has differences. Now, the biggest generational curses that we deal with are divorce, bad habits like alcoholism, drug addicts, things like that. These things we have to see. These things we have to line up. These things we have to focus on and speak on and speak to ourselves and then speak to our families and be like, look, you did A, B, C, D, and F. And I'm not saying that you did bad. You did good for what you knew and what you were given. But at the same time, I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to be better. And one thing I always say to my kids and to myself is, as long as I raise you guys to be better than me, I think I did a great job. How do we change them? Just trying, putting in that work, putting in that effort. But there's a lot of generational curses that we have that are just, some are ugly. We can go a whole episode on just generational curses and the things that we picked up. So we need to start identifying them. We need to stop entertaining them. And it's going to sometimes hurt our generations above us because our generations above us believe that that's the way things are supposed to be. So no disrespect to our older generation, but there's a lot of things that we need to change. And we can try out. I'm not saying that what we're going to do is going to be right and 100%, but why not try it out? Second topic of the day is Step parent role. Ladies and gentlemen, step parent role. I had a stepmother. I have a stepfather as an adult, and I had a stepmother as a child. I also raised or partially raised a stepchild in a past relationship. So stepchildren. I believe it's a tricky situation. It's a tricky position. It's a tricky environment. But with everything, like I always say, I think I should have called this show Communication Talk. Communication is key. I believe as a man, and I'm speaking as a man, as a stepfather, your first thing as a stepfather is to speak to the father. The father don't want to hear you, that's fine. You're not here to force anything on the father. But your position is to speak to the father and let the father know what you are there for, what your intent is, how you do not want to step over any boundaries or anything like that. Now, if the stepfather is ignorant or if the person is not grown or not able to communicate well, that's all fine. That's fine. But make sure your communication is there. Make sure that yourself as a man is letting the other man know that, listen, I'm not here to be a dad. I'm not here to step on no toes. I'm not here to disrespect anybody, but I also am here to be the best male role model in the home. It's hard when it comes to relationships, being a step parent, especially a stepfather, because ultimately it may not be your child. Now, there's differences, and there's always differences to scenarios in situations. You know, you could be a stepfather where technically the father was never around, and I don't really call that a stepfather. I think you're the father at that point. But when it's a two-parent, the father's still around, whether the father's doing what he's supposed to be doing or not what he's supposed to be doing, if he's hopping in and out the child's life, it's going to get tricky for you. It's going to get tricky for you in your relationship with your woman. And remember, once again, I'm speaking as a man. I can't speak as a woman because I'm not a woman. But as a man, it's going to be hard because your woman may have certain ways and things she does on how she raises her child. Now, she should and you should have a communication where you're both are understanding how you're both raising that child or your children in the home. And like I said, there's always different factors to it because you may be a stepdad being a stepfather to her child or children, and you may have children and she's a stepmother to you and your children. So there's a lot of different factors here, but I'm just speaking in the stepdad role in general. In my opinion, putting your hands on somebody else's kids, that's kind of like a gray area because I don't believe in hitting my children. So that's a thing right there. If I don't believe I'm hitting my children, but my partner believes in hitting their children, you know, where does that work out? Or how does that conflict? So it's hard being a step parent. It's hard being a stepdad. But going back to it, communication is key. I believe reassuring that child and letting that child know that you may not be their real parent, and even then telling them that is kind of like a sore area because you don't want that child to make them feel as if they're different. But you want to reassure them that no matter what, you're there for them and you're going to be there for them. So stepdad, step parent, communication. I know this sounds cliche and we're always talking about it, but communication, being reciprocant, understanding, talking, letting them know where you stand, letting them know where they stand, listening to them, understanding them, and relating with them, that all helps out. Ladies and gentlemen, there's one that I want to talk about that I had not talked about in a while, or I don't think at all, is domestic violence. Domestic violence, and I know this conversation or these conversations lean towards more of a man, but it's because I am a man and I don't know how women take things. So this is why when you watch these episodes, I want you to comment and let me know from a woman's perspective if I'm right or if I'm wrong, if you feel as if I'm right or if you feel as if I'm wrong, or I want your opinion on it. But domestic violence, I think domestic violence is one of those tough double standards for men, because as a man, when it comes to domestic violence, being a victim of domestic violence, A, you're not a man if you hit a woman, or B, you're not a man if you call the police, meaning you're not going to get respected if you put your hands on a woman if she hits you, no matter whether she hits you or not, or this, that, and the other. And you're not going to be respected from most masses by calling the police if she puts her hands on you, because they're going to be like, oh, you called the cops, that's some pussy shit, da-da-da-da, whatever. So it's a rough conversation. But I'm going to let y'all know right now, it does not, in my opinion, it does not matter what side of domestic violence you are on. Domestic violence is not okay. It is not cool. It is not something that should be accepted. It's not something that should be entertained. Now, are there people that have emotional disorders and mental disorders? Yes. Are there women and men that don't know how to control their anger, and the first thing they do is lash out and either strike or throw things? Yes. But you need help. You need to seek help. Those are one of those things that we can go back to into generational curses where, we grow up seeing these things and it becomes normal. And, it only changes when something triggers us, whether it's watching a show like this, or almost dying, or almost this. So going back, and I know it may sound cliche once again, but communication. Once your partner puts your hands on you, right then and there, you need to understand there's a problem. And there's a big, 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 big problem there. There's so many different avenues and so many different dysfunctions that domestic violence causes that we could be here for a whole 6 hours talking about it. Women and men, if you are in a domestic relationship and you believe that you're forced to be in it, you're not. If you are in a domestic relationship and you feel as if there's no way out, there is. There has been instances where people don't change till they end up dead or in jail. You got to understand, once you put your hands on somebody, you're going to keep doing it if that person allows you. And once you allow somebody to put their hands on you, you're going to continue on doing it. They're going to continue on doing it if you allow them to do so. It is a very ugly, vicious cycle. Domestic violence is something that we need to understand. I seen domestic violence growing up, and I didn't understand the severity of it until I got older. So domestic violence, if you're going through it, speak on it. If you are doing it, because there may be people that are committing domestic violence and maybe even know that they're wrong, but don't know how to change or don't know what it is. Seek out help. Whatever it is, just seek out help. Loving too much versus loving not enough. What is loving too much? What is loving not enough? How do you point out when you're getting taken advantage of? How do you know when it's not going anywhere? I spoke on love with Matic a couple episodes ago, not on this segment, but just in general. And I was explaining to him my definition of love. And I believe that love is love is up here. Respect, trust, honesty, and I would say there's the word that I used last time for it. Not admiring, but under love would be, I don't know the word right now, but there's love is the superior. Love is the top type. You should know when you are loving too much, because love is divine. Love is something that it shouldn't be replicated to so many other things or people. So when you love someone, you know what you're doing. So when you're giving love to somebody and you're not at least getting at bare minimum the same in return, you're loving too much. Now, is that a bad person? Yes and no. The person that you're loving can be intentionally taking advantage of you, or may not be able to reciprocate your love because they're not either A, loving themselves, or B, just never had that kind of love before. So you got to understand when you're giving too much. And I believe the basic level of knowing when you're giving too much love is when you're not getting the same in return. It's okay to love, but it's not okay to overly love and not get nothing in return. And that may sound a little bit like, well, you shouldn't be doing things to get something in return. No, you shouldn't. But at the same time, you should be appreciated and you should be getting the same back when you're loving somebody. And this is falling more into a partnership. This is not so much a I love my mom, I love my dad. But although we're going to get into that, loving somebody. There are people that prey on people that love a lot. There are people that take advantage of people that love a lot. There are people that are just sick and they want to get what they can out of people because of whatever reasons they may be broken, they may for monetary, whatever it is. There are people that are out there like that. So if you happen to come across somebody like that, the way to see those red flags is, number one, once again, what are you getting in return? What are you doing in return? And it's not always about money. If you're overly loving somebody, you are doing for somebody this, that, and the other, and they're not even answering your texts on time, or they're not considering you the way you consider that person, cut the ties, let it go. And the next one falls into that, which is self-esteem and staying away from depression. Self-esteem is important, and a lot of people lose their self-esteem when they're in bad relationships and don't get the love that they're getting back, because they're giving too much and they're falling into, once again, these generational curses where they believe they have to be with somebody in order to be happy. So what happens is your self-esteem starts going down because you're subtracting from yourself. You're taking from yourself and giving to somebody else in hopes and in dreams to believe that that person is going to give you something back one day. And in reality, they're really not. So your self-esteem is super duper, like, extra important. We go through these things where we have these generational and urban mentalities where you have to get it by all means and never give up and don't get tired. You can get tired. You can be hurt. You can be deterred. You can wake up with a bad day. You can. You can do that. Don't sell yourself short and lose your self-esteem by thinking that you're not keeping up with your own self. You will have bad days, but you have to start by setting little goals. You have to start by focusing on the major point of your life. And that's one thing that going back to number one, was finding the purpose of you. You can't get lost in the everyday, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to work, come home, cook, clean, go to sleep, do the same thing over again. You have to have a purpose. You have to have a reason. You have to have a something, a why, a what. Because if you don't, you start getting lost in the system. You start getting lost in the day. You start getting lost in the sauce, as they say. And your soul comes out of you and your self-esteem comes out of you. And then that's when you're waking up every day, not worrying about how you look, not worrying about how you feel. And you're rolling with the day and your self-esteem is gone. Now, that's dangerous when you're in a relationship, especially with a person that is taking advantage of that relationship and take advantage of who you are. And sometimes it's not even intentional that they're taking advantage of it, but they're comfortable. So you got a person then that sees you, that has no will, has no care, nothing about themselves. So now they control you. Now what they do is they take all their bad days, all their bad trauma, all their bad experience, and they dump it on you because you have no voice, because you have nothing, because you have no self-esteem. So make sure you are putting yourself first. Reassurance and having value for you and your loved ones. Reassurance. Let me explain to you about reassurance. To the people you love and to the people that love you, to the people that are close and to the people that are close to you in your life, your day-to-day life. Reach out to them. How are you? How's your day? How you doing? How you been? It's not always about money. It's not always about buying somebody something. It's just a simple how you been. If you have somebody close to in your life, you know what that person likes. You know what makes that person happy. You know what makes that person smile. Take the time just to do something small for them. Small gestures go a long way. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how rich somebody is or what kind of money they make or what do they see. When you do something that's near, dear to their heart, you will always make them remember you. So reassuring, and that's not always about partners, it's about your kids. You know, we also get lost in this day-to-day life of waking up, going to work, doing this, doing that. Remember to tell your kids you love them. Remember, fathers, to go get your daughter some flowers. Remember, mothers, to treat your sons the way you would want your son to want in a woman. Because as men, we got this stigma on us that if we have daughters, they always want to throw in our face, well, would you want somebody to treat your daughter like that? But we never hear, or we rarely hear, somebody telling a woman, would you want somebody treating your son like that? Women do some shady, screwy, fucked up shit that have sons, but if somebody did that to their son, they'll be on the first car drive to go and do something or hurt somebody, do something. So women, remember, you have sons. I don't want to hear that, oh, this woman ain't shit, this woman ain't this. The reason why your son ain't with that ain't shit woman is because he seen an ain't shit woman growing up and you just didn't even realize it. So the same way y'all want to throw the ball in a man's court and say, well, do you want somebody treating your daughter like that? Ask yourself the same way. Do you want, because you see, that's another thing. I hear a lot of women say, oh, my son shouldn't be taking care of that girl, blah, blah, blah. But y'all out here looking for a man to take care of you. So, you know, this is a double-edged sword. So reassuring your sons and your daughters how to be treated. So when they go out to look for their partners, they can get a good partner. Having value for yourself as well. You need to put value in yourself. You need to put a certain value on what you see and how you perceive yourself. Not everybody's going to be able to make that value. Not everybody's going to agree with that value. That's okay. Not everything is for everybody. You got to remember, not everybody eats fish. Not everybody eats seafood. Not everybody eats hot Takis. Not everybody does a lot of, there's something for everybody. But your value is not made for everybody. If your value was made for everybody, you won't be exclusive. So you want to be exclusive because you want to be matched up with the right people in your life. So if somebody can't understand your value, if somebody can't understand how you perceive yourself and how you want to be treated, it's okay. It's okay. Just disconnect yourself from them. My last topic, and it's a very long topic, that's why I waited to the end of the show, was abandonment issues. Now, I haven't seen a professional therapist yet or anything like that, but recently I have been self-evaluating myself, if that makes sense. And from the things I read and from the things I've been understanding is that I suffer from abandonment issues. Now, what is abandonment issues? A form of anxiety where individuals fear being left alone, rejected, or unvalued by those that care about them. Worry that their friends or partners will leave them. Consistently looking for signs that others do not really like them. Need frequent reassurance that others love them. Always try to please others even at their own expense. Giving too much in relationships or have a lack of boundaries. Staying in unhealthy relationships due to fear of being alone. Having a strong fear of abandonment also can be a symptom of BPD, Borderline personality disorder is a mental health condition that affects the way people feel about themselves and others, making it hard to function in everyday life. It includes patterns of unstable, intense relationships, as well as impulsiveness and unhealthy ways of seeing themselves. Impulsiveness involves having extreme emotions and acting on doing without thinking about them first. This is deep. This is real deep. And I think that a lot of us that has gone through traumas of growing up, whether it's mom and dad breaking up, whether it's mom leaving, whether it's mom not loving us enough, whether it's mom working too much, whether it's dad working too much, whether it's dad not being around, whether it's some kind of separation you experience as a child scarred you, and it starts causing all kind of ripple effects in your life. I took it upon myself to see and search why I feel certain ways and certain things. Now, I don't think I'm at a point of BPD, although, like I said, I'm not a therapist or a medical professional, but I definitely suffer from abandonment issues. Now, it sucks to go through that because with abandonment issues, it's not so much you want to always be with somebody, but it always feels like you need to do for people in order to do good. And if you're not doing for people, I guess those are one of the symptoms. If you're not doing for people, you feel incomplete. When in reality, you should really be doing for yourself. And it breaks you because this goes back to meeting and connecting with people that have the opposite issue or the same issue and taking advantage of you. And maybe, and mostly, not even knowing it. There was some things that I researched for you guys to find out how to deal with these abandonment issues. And one is building self-esteem and confidence, focusing on your personal growth, engaging in activities to make you feel good about yourself, building a sense of self-worth. You got to have self-worth. You got to love yourself. You have to, as hard as it may be, you have to figure out a way to understand that you are in your own world. There are multi-universes in this world, meaning we are each in our own universe. And we cannot be the sidekick in somebody's universe. We have to be the leader in our own universe. Now, our universes can collide and coexist with other people, but we have to understand that we are the president. We are the leader in our own universe. We cannot let somebody or let something make us feel like they need to be first and we're second. We have to take charge in our own universe. Challenging negative thoughts, working on identifying and refragmenting negative thoughts about yourself and worthiness. You need to remind yourself. I did this deep, and I didn't Google this out of anywhere. I just did it by myself. I did this deep meditation where I was going through depression 5-6 years ago. And I started off by, and don't judge me, crazy thing, standing in front of a mirror naked, staring at myself for 15 minutes straight every day. And you're like, why the fuck naked? And I feel like taking all your clothes off is taking everything off of you. There's no distractions, there's no nothing. And you're looking at yourself and you're seeing all the wrong, all the bad, all the flaws, all the everything. And it just breaks you down because you're seeing yourself, no sound, no nothing, and you're seeing all the wrong that you've done. A lot of us can't understand the fact that we do more wrong than we do right, usually. We don't live in a world full of mirrors. If we lived in a life of mirrors, we would be disgusted with ourselves because we would see all the wrong that we do. We tend to see more wrong of everybody else because we can't see ourselves. And I don't want to say wrong as in you're stealing from people. Just your loathingness. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, but just being lazy, putting off something, not being and working to your full extent, eating too much, not sleeping enough. There's just so many things that if we looked at ourselves, we'd be like, why are you doing that? So that's why I took those 15 minutes every day and looked at myself in the mirror, bare butt ass naked. But I started seeing myself the week after, and I started pointing out those flaws. I started pointing out those things that I was doing wrong. And the next week after that, I started seeing the good I was doing. I wasn't crying as much. I was sitting there and I was laughing. I was smiling. I'm like, damn, bro, you've been through A, B, C, D, and F, but you're making it. Another way to work on abandonment issues is practicing self-resilience, emotional regulation. Learn techniques to manage your emotions and reduce anxiety. Understand and do not let anxiety get you. We all suffer from anxiety, but do understand you can only do what you can do. You can only do what you can do. When a situation arises and a situation occurs, embrace the situation, deal with the situation, but move on from the situation. And I know a lot of y'all gonna say, well, Willie, that's easier said than done. You get into a car accident, your car is fucked. There's no changing it until you go to the body shop, you change it, you fix it, and then you move on. But if you keep sitting there and dwelling on that car accident, you will be forever on that car accident. Healthy boundaries. Establishing healthy boundaries in your relationships to protect yourself from being overwhelmed or taken advantage of. Healthy boundaries. You hear that, Robbie Joe? Let me say that again. Robbie Joe's in the building, y'all. Establish healthy boundaries in your relationships to protect yourself from being overwhelmed or taken advantage of. Understand that you have to create boundaries. You do not have to be at someone's mercy 24/7. Create boundaries, create personal time, create your time. Once again, you are the president, you are the captain in your own universe. You're supposed to bring these universes together and be great together. But if a person is trying to make you leave your universe and become second in theirs and their first, it's not going to happen. It's not going to make sense. Develop healthy relationships. Seek out supportive relationships. Nurture relationships that provide a sense of belonging and security. Be with somebody that's not going to threaten you to leave. If somebody's going to leave, let them leave. But do not accept somebody consistently telling you, well, if you don't do this, I'm going to leave. Or when you get into an argument, they leave. That's not healthy for you. That should be something you should not deal with, and understand that they are intentionally or non-intentionally provoking a trauma that you have inside of you. Communicate effectively. I don't have to tell you guys this. Practice open and honest communication with your partner and loved ones. Communication is key, ladies and gentlemen. Communication is something that I can't stress over and over again. I should have called the show just strictly communication, because lack of communication can lead to so many bad areas, bad avenues, bad situations. Abandonment issues are real, though. I've come to the agreement that I suffer from abandonment issues. I suffer from abandonment issues with my parents. I suffer abandonment issues with my past relationships. I suffer abandonment issues from living in places. I remember being a child. I don't think I've went to, I did go to multiple elementary schools, multiple middle schools, and multiple high schools. I went to 2 different high schools, not as much as elementary and middle school. But these things built a sense of abandonment in me, where I feel like I can't lock into one thing, because something is always going to be short-lived and it's going to leave me. It's going to separate me out of my life. I think that's one of the reasons why I love my children so much, is because I feel like my kids are the number one thing in my life that are not going to leave me. And I know for a fact that they're going to grow up and move out and live their own lives one day. But when it comes to them loving me, I feel like my kids are my most genuine love that I'll ever get from anybody anywhere else in this world. So I'm still working on it, ladies and gentlemen, but abandonment issues are something that are very dear and very, very important to me. if you've been watching Real Talk and you've been watching these episodes, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I know that this has been reaching people. I know these conversations and I know these words and I know these topics have been genuinely getting to people. And it's not to take away from anything that I've done in the past, but I know that this is genuinely helping people relate to a lot of things and helping them get through things in life. So if you're watching this, thank you. Support, comment, like, subscribe, do all that. Share this with your friends. Send my page, send these links, send these conversations to your friends, to your families, just to random people that you feel the need to hear this. But I want to hear from other people. Comment. I want to make sure you guys are commenting on this. Thank you for all the support. Follow me on Instagram at Litty Willie _. Make sure you DM me, send me a message on any topics that you want to hear. And other than that, I got nothing else to say. This is Real Talk, and we out.